And the Fiend now looking for Sister Abigail. Oh. And now Orton from behind with the RKO. And a cover by Orton. And a hook to the leg. And Orton has slain the Fiend. Here is your winner, Randy Orton.
Don't be sad. You'll always be my little firefly, and I'll always watch out for you. Goodbye, for now.
You know what? There's a part of me that feels like we owed The Fiend vs. Goldberg an apology. Oh no, not because it was an actually good match and we were wrong to shit on it, but because we were wrong to think this was as bad as things can get. In my love letter to the Firefly Funhouse match, I described The Fiend vs. John Cena as an ethereal experience. One wrestling match in particular goes against that in just about every way imaginable, and unfortunately, Bray Wyatt, portrayed by the late Wyndham Rotunda, just so happened to get the short end of the stick. Enter The Fiend vs. Randy Orton at WrestleMania 37, aka not just Wyatt's final WrestleMania, but his final match as The Fiend before he was released by WWE 3 months later. It is the most disrespectful send-off to a wrestling gimmick that many people have expressed so much passion for. And I saw John Cena tap out to Gunther in his retirement match. If you want to be a Bray Wyatt fan, do not watch this match, because I guarantee you that you will hate your life if you do. It feels like a match that was specifically designed to appeal to people who have a burning hatred for Wyndham and his wrestling gimmicks. But before I dissect the unbridled horrors that await you, let's all enjoy the calm before the storm as we start at the beginning. It all began on the October 26, 2020 episode of Monday Night Raw, where Randy Orton appeared as a guest on Alexa Bliss's talk show, where she made a not-so-subtle reference to a moment in his past feud with Bray. For context, back in 2016, the Viper joined the Wyatt family before going on to win the Royal Rumble the following year. That was when he betrayed Wyatt by burning down his compound with the soul of Sister Abigail still inside, before challenging him to a match at WrestleMania 33. I'm pretty sure you know how that turned out. Randy demanded to know where the Fiend was, only to be interrupted and attacked by Drew McIntyre, who sought to reclaim the WWE Championship. The Viper tried to flee, but the Fiend wasn't gonna let him off that easily. Orton decided that he wasn't gonna f with him, and went after the Scottish psychopath instead. It didn't go well. Close to a month later, Randy would have a match with AJ Styles, where the winner would be added to a triple threat match to determine the next challenger for the WWE Championship that he lost. He appeared to have this one in the bag until the Fiend distracted him, allowing the Phenomenal One to win the match with a phenomenal forearm. The following week, Orton appeared on A Moment of Bliss again, only this time he vowed to find the Fiend's weakness, which appeared to be Alexa Bliss. She turned out to be alright. The week after that, Bray Wyatt decided to play games with him by asking the puppets how the Viper should be punished at TLC. When none of them answered correctly, he warned his old rival that the Fiend always has the right answer. Only then did Orton challenge him to a match the following night, to which he eagerly accepted. The Vipers seemed to have the upper hand, but just when he was about to pin Wyatt for the 3 count, the lights went out. When the lights came back on, the Fiend would be in Wyatt's place, as he incapacitated Orton with the mandible claw. Another week after that, the Viper would challenge Wyatt to a game of hide and seek. During his search, the host of the Firefly Funhouse noticed the rocking chair and sat on it, but it turned out to be a trap set by Orton. who ambushed him and locked him in a casket before pouring gasoline all over it and setting it ablaze, only for the Fiend to break out and punish the Viper for his sins against Wyatt. Finally, the two men would have a Firefly Inferno match in the final TLC event to date, where the only way to win was to set your opponent on fire. Orton ultimately won by doing exactly that. While the match was pretty cool for the most part, I was kinda disappointed with the result. However, I convinced myself that it was going to lead to a bigger and much more satisfying payoff. Oh, how blind I was. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. During the Fiend's absence, Alexa Bliss relentlessly tortured the Viper on a physical and psychological level, which led to an intergender match between them at Fastlane. It turned out to be a trap as the Fiend emerged from the canvas, now charged from their last encounter. After that, it was only fitting that they would have a rematch at the grandest stage of them all, the 37th WrestleMania, which took place in Tampa, Florida. You would think that since the Fiend had returned, WWE would handle him with love and care after they carelessly fumbled the ball twice, surely honoring one of the most captivating, marketable, and generational horror wrestling gimmicks of all time. Wasn't too much to ask for from World Wrestling Entertainment. Well, guess what? F you, bitch! This is the match to open up night 2, and we all know where that road leads to. Are you ready? Sorry, I got a little heated there. What I'm trying to say is that for as much as this is going to pay me to do it, let's dive right into The Fiend vs. Randy Orton 2. A match that left me wanting to scream at the top of my gosh damn lungs as I watched my whole world fall apart. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road! They do their usual entrances, but I gotta be honest, The Fiend's was the highlight of the match. Watching him approach the stage while healing from his charred form and singing his catchphrase "Let me in the night sky" was pretty neat. Then Alexa comes out to the Firefly Funhouse theme, where we see a giant Jack-in-the-Box at ringside as she turns the handle. The Fiend emerged from the box as his theme, which his fans have come to know and love, played, before getting the jump on the Viper as their long-awaited rematch finally began. Both foes were able to land solid hits on each other, but it became transparent that the Fiend was shrugging off his attacks as if they were nothing more than bug bites. Just when Orton was about to put him down with the RKO for good, his arch-enemy caught him with the mandible claw. And there it is, the moment of truth. The Fiend positions the Viper for the Sister Abigail, ready to end this once and for all. But suddenly, with no warning, fire erupted from the turnbuckles and we see Alexa Bliss sitting on top of the Jack-in-the-Box. She called out to him, so to speak, and the Fiend was drawn to her like a moth to a flame. Orton took advantage of this and performed the RKO to pin him for the 1, 2, 3. Afterwards, the Fiend and Alexa would have a stare down before the lights went out and the two disappeared. That's it? All this buildup and he falls over like he's made of sticks? What an anticlimactic ending. This was Rotunda's final WrestleMania and The Fiend's last match. And this is how he goes out? Are we talking about the same Fiend who survived multiple curb stomps at Hell in a Cell 2019 and one RKO is enough to take him down? I thought making him lose to a 53-year-old was insane enough. But this is on a whole new level of idiotic. And you wanna know what happens next? You wanna know what happens next? F you, that's what happened next. And that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was, the match turned the Fiend into a dumbass. You know that annoying trope in wrestling where a wrestler or a referee gets distracted and it almost never ends well? Alright, who's the motherfucker that approved this? I just want to talk to him. Thanks to WrestleMania, we have the answer.
As scary as it may sound, fans can't rule out Mr. McMahon's well-known mercurial moods when it comes to last-minute changes to television shows and big pay-per-views. You'll likely recall the many rumors of Vince McMahon wanting to make WrestleMania 37 nothing less than the greatest WrestleMania of all time. Now, one way to do it is by surprising the fans by taking likely finishes and changing things up. Here, the Fiend returned from being set on fire, and it was all but guaranteed that he would defeat Randy Orton in their rematch. Vince being Vince though, fans know he made a last-second call to have Orton go over. Does it make sense? Well, no, but it was a surprise. In Vinnie Mac's mind, a surprise is a surprise, even if it's a nonsensical one.
What?
You mean to tell me Vince McMahon took one look at this match and thought to himself, a lot of people are expecting the Fiend to give the Viper his just desserts. But wait, why don't I subvert the audience's expectations by changing the finish of the match? Even if it means I have to stab Mr. Rotunda and his fans in the back. Yeah, that makes too much sense. We got to have money! I have one response to that.
It was all worth it for the sake of subverting the audience's expectation. No! Buzz off! I'm getting so sick of this stupid trope. I'm sick of writers seeing that fans are expecting a thing to happen one way in their story, and then proceeding to change their story to account for the fans' expectations and end up making the story worse as a result. It happens all the time.
At least with The Fiend versus Goldberg, there was no hope for that match being anything other than a putrid pile of horse manure. But here, you built up the hopes of Bray Wyatt fans around the world just to smash their dreams to pieces. And what do you have to gain from that? Scamming them out of their money while playing them for fools? Depriving them of a satisfying conclusion in favor of leaving them depressed or angry? Forcing us to wait 3 months and 3 weeks for the Fiend to settle the score, just to deny him that and telling us to go fuck ourselves in the end for being emotionally invested? Do you really hold this much contempt for Bray Wyatt fans that it drove you to do all of this? Thought so. At least with Cody versus Roman at WrestleMania 39, you could justify the ending as the Avengers Infinity War of WWE, which would lead to a more satisfying payoff in the future. Their own take of Avengers Endgame at extra large, if you will. But there's no fixing this. There's no magical third part that's gonna make things all fine and dandy. It's done. It's over. This is the end of the line. And this is the blood that will stain Vince McMahon's greedy hands until the end of time. Why would you bother having the Fiend feud with Randy Orton if it was never going to lead to a satisfying payoff? Was it because profit was more important than telling a good story? Sometimes it's best to leave well enough alone, but you just had to tear our souls to pieces one last time before you released a man who was simply too good for your rotting corpse of a company that will continue to sink deeper into the abyss as long as we don't think with our wallets, say we had enough of this garbage, and instead fall into complacency with the same mantra, don't ask questions, just consume product, and then get excited for next products. I went into this match with the expectation that, even if we didn't get a masterpiece on par with the Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania 36, at least we wouldn't get anything quite as horrid as the main event of the last ever Super Showdown, and if nothing else, The Fiend would finally avenge Bray Wyatt's loss at WrestleMania 33 4 years earlier. But my faith could not have been more horrifically misplaced. I've seen some pretty awful pieces of media between now and then, but none of them have enraged me to the extent that this match did. And I lost my sanity after being forced to endure Cody versus Roman at WrestleMania 39. The Fiend versus Randy Orton isn't simply the worst WrestleMania match I've ever seen. It is genuinely one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. It's not even a 0 out of 10. It's miles beneath that. And as touching as Wyatt's tribute to Luke Harper was, it wasn't enough to save this travesty. Say what you will about Hell in a Cell 2019 or Super Showdown 2020, but I wasn't kidding when I declared that WrestleMania 37 was the final nail in The Fiend's coffin. And it's made even worse when you realize that he could have been saved had it not been for the untimely death of Wyndham Rotunda. Both times. Bray Wyatt was eviscerated twice. Only this time, it was beyond any hope of salvation and destroyed what very little goodwill I had left for this godforsaken company. Because this moronic geezer proved once and for all that he never gave a f*** about Wyndham and his fans. He made a last minute decision to bullshit the finish just so he could take the best gimmick WWE had in years and jerk himself off over denying him a W and forcing you to watch him being treated like a joke and elevate the Viper Randy Orton when he never needed the win to begin with. All because Mr. McMahon had no idea on how to book an ending to their feud that was even semi-logical. You, you grotesque greedbag. Go f*** yourself then, now, and forever. Go f*** yourself to oblivion, you woefully incompetent hack! I shredded my vocal cords for this, by the way. Maybe all this negativity is starting to take its toll on me. Maybe I should review another thing I actually enjoy. Let's see. I reviewed WrestleMania Extra Large, the Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania 36, Same Town, New Neighbors, and What is a Person Worth? What could I possibly review next? Huh. Why not? This is Briox, and until next time, Mr. McMahon.
Yeah, I thought I had a feeling before, and now you're closing the door because you don't want me coming in. Yeah, I knew I seen you before, Friday night at the store, you had another boy to hold your hand. Okay, now I see it, bitch, you want me to beat a bitch, I ain't finna beat it, no. She said, why you so conceited, bitch? Yeah, I got my reason, bitch. Why the fuck you geeking, oh. Blood on the Nike switch, cause I had to bite the bitch. Blood still